views, information, or opinions expressed during the Seeds of Wellbeing series are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, or funders, and any affiliated organizations involved in this project. Welcome to a Seeds of Wellbeing Voices from the Field podcast featuring voices of Hawaii agriculture producers for Hawaii agriculture producers. These podcasts are made possible by a grant from the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, also known as CTAHR, and the Seeds of Wellbeing, or SOW project, and is supported by a grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and the Hawaii Department of Agriculture.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Alex Wong. I'm with the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, the Seeds of Wellbeing project. And I'm here today with Tyson Banasihan. We're at his lo'i where he grows kalo. So Tyson, if you could introduce yourself and share a little bit with us about the name of your farm and what inspired you to get started.
Aloha, my name is Tyson Banasihan, kalo farmer here in Waimea Valley. The name of my farm is E Ulu Farms. And I guess to start, the reason why I named it E Ulu is not only we grow food, but we grow in more than just food out here is kind of like a mentality. We're growing as people. So that's kind of where my focus is as far as wanting to farm. So my farm is not for profit. I don't sell anything here. The profit I'm looking for is more of a moral one versus money. So the goal out here as a farmer for me and why I wanted to start doing this is first off, my children. I wanted them to grow up in a lifestyle of knowing that there's more than working and gaining money to live. You know, there's other ways to live, and to be sovereign in our food security is really important. I just want them to know that there's another way to live versus killing yourself every day on a hard-working job, paying Uncle Sam, and buying produce that is imported here from the mainland. There's more value in that, you know, as far as I think that's the first step in being sovereign here in the kingdom of Hawaii. Yeah, this is me. I first started farming a little over 2 years ago. Kind of jumped around in places, not really finding too much success, but you know, we just hit ho'omau. We persevered, kept pushing, trying to keep the main thing, and we landed here, you know. Fortunately, my wife has family here, ties, and we were able to based off of my actions of wanting to farm so bad and kind of taking the right steps had landed me in the right place. So, yeah. Okay, so this is my first lo'i that we decided to vehe. So we vehe two lo'i. This is the first one I decided for canoeing. This one, I kind of use this one as one nursery. See, when I first started to farm, kind of my thing was, I love kalo, all shapes and sizes, no matter what variety. Mostly Hawaiian variety, but the history behind the different varieties is what kind of caught my eye. And once I started tasting all the different varieties of kalo, it's like, I love this one, but all for different reasons. And I've got about 30 Hawaiian varieties in this lo'i. Going from kapa'aloa to elele makoko to maui lehua maoli to oahia pele. I get check this one out earlier. This one is the one I'm trying to multiply. This is pikolehua pei or api'i. This is the only variety that get these appendages underneath. Now this variety is a really ono poi variety, part of the royal red poi varieties. How and why they get the appendages, I do not know. But as far as people that know the varieties, Pico was grown that way for Akajara like to say the aerodynamics. It stands up real well in the wind, so it doesn't tear or rip.
So do you do crossbreeding or genetic things?
I don't. You know, for me, it's cool, but I'm all about, because if we start to crossbreed these varieties, yeah, and then all these original native varieties start to get lost. You know what I mean? Everybody's gonna want to keep growing these hybrids because it's easier. You know, it grows bigger, faster, or whatnot, and then you start to lose all those varieties. Like,
so you're just trying to keep it pure.
I'm trying to keep it pure. I'm trying to keep it going. So like, some of these varieties are really hard to find. Like this Pico Lehua P, was good thing for me is one thing is in this, I don't like to say business because I don't sell kalo, but one thing in this lifestyle is networking is really important. So I've made a lot of friends because of my want and need to be a farmer. So luckily for me, I met the right people and he hooked me up with some of these just tree he was able to give. I got a lot of mana ulu as well. Right now I'm nursing mana ele ele, which is another one that's hard to find. That's not a quick kalo. That I get at home. But yeah, this is my first SOW. If you notice, these varieties here are younger, but it's not as tall as the one back there, like Kapa'alo. Like a lot of these varieties came from what we call mala'ai, which is dry land gardens. So that they're still going through that transition from dry land to wetland. That's why if you notice, they're not as big as you know that variety back there, Kapa'alo, which is, you know, been growing in the lo'i. So they're still trying to get acclimated. They're still growing pretty well, just not as well as they can in wetland, which is fine.
So you don't sell it to?
I don't sell. No, this.
Wouldn't it be more profitable to sell?
Well, for me,
look at this, Holly.
Profit. I understand.
I mean, because it helps you living wise.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
100% it does. But for me, I think the value, the profit that I'm looking for is less of a materialistic one and more of like a moral one, you know, because I have 2 little kids and I'm trying to teach them that you don't have to rely on these big what you call produce companies, commercial companies, the government. You can grow your own food, bro. And if you like talk about Kanak Maoli and the Hawaiian sovereignty, I think it starts right here. Because what is sovereignty? You gotta learn what is sovereignty. The first thing in sovereignty is you self-governed, right? You can self-govern yourself.
Independent.
And you're independent. How are you gonna be independent and self-governed if you cannot even grow your own food? You gotta rely on somebody else to feed you. If you can feed yourself, that's the first step. So, you know, my kids, they get kanaka, they get cocoa. So it was really important for me, like how you were saying, to bring your kids back to your roots. Now, for me, it's important for me to make sure they grow up living their roots and learning their roots. Because my wife, she's from Molokai. And if you know anything about Molokai, the high school, their mascot is farmers. They're born and raised farmers. So she did this from when she was on Pepe, on Bebe. All her life was on chore for her. So it's important for me to make sure my kids learn where they come from. Because as in Hawaiian, this is where they come from. They never come up from the hula. They never come up from the wars. They came up from the kalo plant right there.
I have a Japanese friend in California. She's born in San Jose, but her parents are from Molokai.
Oh, right on.
They moved to San Jose. And the funny thing is that she now lives in Stockton, which is close to us, but she married a farmer.
A Katonk, no, Japanese farmer in the valley.
He came to visit Alex earlier this year.
Right on. What kind of farming?
Sugar beets was his specialty. But he did all kind, corn, beans, edamame, daikon.
Oh, nice.
Some like mainland sweet potato kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So I gotta tell her that story.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's trying to encourage Alex to do farming and all that.
Yeah.
He's like my mom's like, Japanese, yeah, so like her older brother in school, he's like 2 years older, so.
Okay. Right on. Yeah, I mean, farming, I mean, it goes back not just for the Hawaiian race, but I think all races. You know, Mesopotamian, you know, all those ancient races of people, they farmed. That was their first source of food. Yeah, you had to. If you couldn't farm, you know, you gotta hunt. If you couldn't hunt, you gotta farm. If you can't do none, you would die.
Yeah.
You know, 100%. So, yeah, this is the first lo'i. This is this one I named after my son, Kulani.
Your youngest.
My youngest, my boy. Yeah. I think kind of the reason why I named it that is a lot of you know, all the names that come to you, they just come to you. You know, you kind of get that feeling where you want to call it something. And when I first had opened this lo'i, he'd just go run up and down this lo'i, and he loves it, bro. He loves having a lepo all over himself and being soaking wet before we go home. So he always laugh and have fun in this lo'i, so I call this one Kulani. And yeah, this is the first one. I'm still learning, choke for learn. I'm a young farmer, you know. I haven't been a kalo farmer for too long, but there's a lot to learn. Trust, a lot to learn. So this is my second lo'i. So this lo'i right here, I just recently planted about a month and a half, 2 months ago, starting from this side. I'm going down that way. Shout out to the Hashimoto's in Honopepe Valley for the huli. A lot of this is lihua varieties. Kauai lihua and Maui lihua. Some kapa'aloa in the middle there, and then I get some varieties I pulled from here that was ready to go. I just planted them here. Manalauloa. Kai uli. But as you can see, it's overgrown. So I've been spending a lot of time trying to weed. Yeah, when you get a lot of water, the weeds tend to grow a lot faster. So I was supposed to weed back, but that never happened this morning. But yeah, this is this lo'i I called Ka'ipo after my daughter, because she actually helped me plant this lo'i. Me, my wife, and my daughter Abigail. Her middle name is Ka'ipo, and she's at the age where she likes to dance, and you know like the culture now is like TikTok and whatnot. So while we were planting, she bust on my wife's phone, took a video of her dancing in a lo'i. I've got it posted on my Instagram, so I decided to name it Ka'ipo after her.
So how do you get the water to feed into here?
So luckily for me, when I was able to farm this place, I was given the opportunity to farm here. These lo'is were already here, so kind of the task for me was this was all trees at one point. So when I first came here and I looked at everything under all that brush and trees were intact already. All the pipelines that was laid from the previous farmers were here already. It was a matter of me uncovering everything and just to what they say, vehe, the aina, yeah, open them up. And so I tried to do it by hand for months. Really tough task. I was lucky to have a lot of support, you know, in my community, or you know, in my friends and my family. So I got a lot of help, and then I was able to get someone to bring a couple tractors here, and they just opened it up in like half a day. When I was spending, you know, months trying to clear it by hand and only get like a quarter of a way. Tractors came and they cleared everything. Yeah. So yeah, they came, they cleared everything, they tilled everything for me, and I just opened up the pipes.
Oh.
Yeah, but I think when I was wondering kind of the questions that Alex would be asking me, I noticed one of the questions were, what are some of the challenges of being a kalo farmer? And I think first for me personally is finding time, because I have a full-time job.
Oh, you do? Oh,
yeah. Monday to Thursday, 7 to 5:30. By trade, I'm a painter.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, so my free time, I'm here. I'm a kalo farmer. You know, even after work, if I got I'm a kalo farmer, you know. So that's why, you know, this. If I had all the time in the world, bro, this would be all trimmed and nice and shot, and you know, this lo'i would be full already. But yeah, one of the challenges is that time, and then the second challenge is water, bro. The way, yeah. So when I first came here, the OI had just enough water coming down to feed Uncle's patch and my friend's patch next to us. And I was gonna open up lo'i, so one thing that I was worried about was taking too much water from them, because my pipe for this lo'i is up here, is above this one. So first thing that I did once this was tilled up was I walked up this ditch line. If you want to go check it out, I'll show you guys where we get our water from.
Also, it's not fed from the river then.
It is, but way up high. Yeah, way up high. So ancient Hawaiian times, well, as you guys know, this is Menehune Ditch, yeah, the famous Menehune Ditch. When this system was built, the king wanted water to get to their lo'i's down here in this valley around the cliff. And watch your head. And so they asked the Menehunes to build them in a way, you know. And part of that was building a wall that would suspend the water along the cliff. But a river up there. And so there used to be a dam way up high in the valley that fed the OA. Yeah. But now, because of all the diversions, yeah, when the sugar company came, it kind of messed everything up. That old system got broken down somehow, and there's a diversion that runs high up in a canyon, and it runs along this cliff up here. It's kind of this edge of the valley, this cliff side. There's a ditch that runs along it, and it runs all the way around this cliff, all the way down Manaus side to all the corn companies. So that's where we're getting our water now. So one of the farmers up, I'm guessing, and you can quote me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that all the farmers were like, hey, that's my water. So they went up there and stuck the pipe inside, and that was it. We need water for our lo'i, so that's what I guess. I mean, if I was in those times, this is what I would have done. So every day, since then, I'd clean this ditch, weapon his trees. I would go all the way, follow all the way along the road. It goes all the way up this way, and then there's a pipe that feeds it. It goes all the way up this cliff, and I'll go all the way up there and I'll clean that intake, and I'll make sure the water's flowing every week. I'll do that twice a week, just to make sure we get enough water to feed our lo'i's. We're pretty much the last guys on the Hawaii that gets water. There's more lo'i's up this way on Gay Road.
So when the plantations shut down, they didn't shut the water thing?
No, because there's the corn companies down on Manaus side.
The corn, that's still there?
Yeah, the corn companies all at the end. I think it's Syngenta still yet?
Corporate ag. So
is it Pioneer?
Bex left. They left. They were down to like a 9-man crew and then a 5-man crew. Well, people crew. They had some Wahine over there. Right now it's Hartung. So okay. I think Syngenta, their land was taken over by Hartung, which is mainland seed corporate farming. Mm-hmm. And then right here, Corteva.
Oh, Corteva, that's right.
Corteva had kind of taken over some of the pioneer Syngenta. I think some of that was leased from Gay and Robinson.
Okay.
So those guys didn't make a stink that you guys are tapping in.
Well, I wasn't even born when that was made. So this system here is fairly old. When I came into this valley, I was looking at a place in Makaweli, and so one of the things for me is respect, yeah. And when you go up Makaweli Valley, you gotta pass through people's properties and whatnot. Yeah. So I organized like a meet with Paleke. Paleke brought me into one of their meetings where I had all the old timers, actually right next door there. And they're all hanging out for this meeting for about the water. So he wanted to bring me in. You know, I introduced myself, kind of let them know what I wanted to do. And they asked what the plot was, and they were telling me that it's super swampy, hard to farm. A lot of people tried to farm that actual plot I was looking at and gave up. So they recommended checking out Uncle Julian LaCroix here. I know back in about 10 years ago, used to be farmed by the Oppo family, Uncle Oppo, and a couple other brothers. So he talked to Uncle Julian for me, and then Uncle Julian got in contact with me, and that's how it all started here.
Oh, so that's good because you got the older generation supporting.
Yeah. So I just came in after that. I kept asking a lot of questions, kind of my thing. Asked a lot of questions, see how things work here, make sure I do everything I need to do to stay in line here and help out the older generation as much as I can. So that's why I choose to clean the ditches. It's hard work, bro. And these guys have been doing it for years and years, and now it's my turn for trying, make it easier for them, as they probably did when they were younger. So so where was I? So the water, it runs. It comes from the top of the canyon back there, and it runs all the way to the corn companies. And what's sad is this corn companies, we don't even see that corn, bro.
Where's it going?
It's only experiments. Is some of the corn sold here?
It's seed corn. So what that means is they're trying to genetically engineer a superior DNA in each strain, in each their variety. Just like how we get varieties here.
Yeah.
For kalo.
For kalo, yeah.
They get varieties for corn, yeah.
Yeah.
That can grow better in Africa or grow better in South America.
It goes back to the question I asked you in the beginning. The crossbreeding.
So,
crossbreeding.
But the thing is are they growing a fish out of water over there? Is corn meant to be grown in Hawaii?
It can. I mean, okay. I think that's a good question. There's a lot of things that can grow here. That's kind of how Hawaii came to be Hawaii today. The holidays came and they saw, wow, this land is fertile, it's beautiful. I can grow some freaking food over here and make some money. That's why. Sugar. And that's why you got the sugar plantations, pineapple plantation, dole on the east side. And then you get all this corn, all this sugar cane on this side and whatnot. And you can grow anything over here, really. But that's fine too, and that's fine with me anyways. But if you're growing something that we're not going to even eat here, I don't really see the point.
To answer your question though, they're growing corn to make seeds, so that they can bag it in mass quantities and sell it around the world.
Oh, okay.
This is basically a seed generator over here. This is their incubator.
This company is not from here though, so the revenue goes back to the mainland. The revenue doesn't stay here, so that doesn't really help our economy.
All the people here get is a paycheck.
Yeah, they get one paycheck that is taxed. It goes back to the mainland. You know what I mean?
Uncle Sam.
Sam, so.
And Honolulu.
Yeah, and then I mean, when you look at it that way, like, is it really worth sending millions of gallons out that way for that?
Right.
When the water could be in our stream systems, where it's supposed to be running through people's lo'is,
So someone might argue, oh, it's for the greater good of the world. But then my response to that would be, but what about the local people?
Yeah.
You're trying to save the world. You cannot even save your neighbor or the people who live there.
Yeah, so we're going to take advantage of these native people here. Yeah. And for the greater good of the world, we're going to destroy their culture and their aina.
Mm-hmm.
And then when everything is all depleted, we're going to go someplace else and destroy them.
Move on.
And then by then, not going to have nobody left. Who are you going to save? What world? Not going to have one world.
And someone else will become the next victim.
Exactly. So
to be exploited.
We got to really look at...
Well, the other problem is that I don't even know if they look at it scientifically. If you crossbreeding to try to find varieties, like you were saying, you're reducing the purity of the natural growth of it's the plant. Mm-hmm. So for the profit margin that they're getting trying to do that, they're actually bringing down the nutritional value of the food, which is not doing the greater good of the global, even if they sell it.
Well, that's like with anything, with livestock, with dogs, with kalo, with cannabis. You want to have some variety. You want to have some diversity, right? Because everything has its own purpose, its own use.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I don't know too much about cannabis, but I think food-wise, as far as like the food crops here in Hawaii, throughout the generations and centuries of its growth, it has natural mutation, you know. So I think over the years we have the varieties that are meant to be where they're supposed to be. Like talking about kalo, yeah, they like crossbreed these varieties to be better, you know, when it's closer to the Makai, where it's closer to the ocean, where the water is a little bit salty or the soil is a little bit salty. We have those varieties, you know. Opukai, the kai varieties, pa'akai. We'll have those varieties already, and if you look up Jerry Kunanui, he talks a lot about this, and 100% agree. We already have the variety. Once upon a time, Hawaiians had about 300 native varieties of kalo. You know how much there is today? It's about 80,
Wow.
82, 83, something like that.
Less than 100.
Less than 100,
Yeah.
and some of those aren't even Hawaiian varieties. You know, they include like the Japanese and the Chinese varieties that came during the plantation time. You know?
The bunlong, the famous
Yeah,
bunlong,
the bunlong,
the
you know,
profitable
for
one.
leaf and stuff like that. So we have the varieties. That's kind of why I'm still growing it. And there's varieties that are still being discovered. I mean, if you go places like Kalalau, Hanakapi'ai, if you look at the cliff size, bro, there's kalo growing, bro. And a lot of people don't even know what they are. But yeah, I mean, varieties are discovered every day. I think we should spend more time learning about these varieties versus trying to create new ones. And like I said, probably in ancient Hawaiian times, I know already Hawaiians didn't know how to crossbreed. That's probably how they got these varieties, you know. And to be trying to interbreed them with varieties that aren't even from here, there might be some problems there, you know. I'm not 100% against them. I don't know how I feel about them yet.
Yeah.
Because of what I'm trying to do as far as preserving native varieties. You know, it could get lost. Native varieties could get lost when you do that. And they naturally crossbreed anyways.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people don't know is kalo gives a flower. And when those flowers pollinate each other, it creates a crossbreed. So
You're using natural sources.
yeah, natural sources, and Hawaiians knew that. They know how to get the flower out the kalo, because it doesn't give every time, but it's under certain circumstances where you get those flowers. And 100% know the Hawaiians knew what they was doing, bro. Those Kanaka Mo'olis back in those times, they know what they was doing, and he created the varieties that we have today. So I just here for cherish them, enjoy them, share them, and bring awareness of them. Yeah, we should be growing more native varieties. I mean, hybrids is fine, but we gotta make sure we have those native varieties too. Yeah, because there's some varieties that a lot of people haven't seen in a long time. I had my in-laws here a few months ago. My father-in-law, who you know is somebody I learned a lot from, and they live the lifestyle every single day on Molokai, Halava Valley. So he came here and he was like, "Bro, I never see this variety for so long. How you got this?" You know, like, and that brought joy to my heart, because it's like, "Bro, Dad, you like take them.
Yeah.
You know, you they go in Halava, take them. You know, so." Yeah, that's part of the profit I was talking about, the moral profit for me.
So the interesting, okay, if they're from Molokai,
Yeah.
is that kalo there totally different varieties than what you have here?
Theirs?
Yeah.
No, actually, a lot of the Lehua varieties that I have is from Molokai. And no, they're all the same. They're just grown in different areas, different environments.
Oh, okay. So it's not specific to a certain
No,
island.
it's not specific to a certain island. Yeah, they're all grown on every island. All these varieties. It's just
Kalo is like people.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's like people. They live. They get their own genetics.
yeah,
You know, the way I kind of right now, given my limited knowledge right now, the way I kind of see genetics and breeding and preservation right now, it's kind of like painting, right? Painting with different colors. And so you look at your pure breeds or your landrace varieties, right? The ones that are unique, phenotypically unique, physically they look different, genetically they can respond different to pests, right?
Yeah.
Humidity,
100%.
sunshine or shade. mildew, and even like how much of a beating they can take from wind, or a storm.
Yeah.
And when you kind of leave something alone for a while and it just kind of breeds with itself, that's where you get more of your unique like traits. And eventually those they become so ingrained in the DNA that they stick around for generations. And they become more and more the same with each other. And so that's how you get your land race, right? Or your breeds, your pure breeds. And so those are like the primary colors. When you're painting, like you get the primary ones like the red, the green, right? The blue and the yellow. And then you gotta mix those to make other colors like the purples, right? The colors between. And those would be more of like our hybrids. And it's easy to make hybrids, but it's difficult to go backwards and get the red and the blue and the yellow out of the brown.
So that is the fear, for me, is they get lost. Like, that's a good analogy, bro. Because you cannot go back once you breed them and you lost that primary color. Then you cannot go back and bring them out, But there's a phenomenon that I learned recently from Anthony DeLuz, Uncle Anthony, and I was talking to him about, because I was looking for Pico Lehua PE, and he's like, bro, I used to have choke, and then he was recommending me for check out one of his videos on that variety specific, and he talked about the kalo would kahuli, which would revert back to its original form, which is surprising because you don't really hear about that. So he would have that Pico Lehua P, and he would go down to the keikis and you look, no more appendages, no more pico, just look like one green kalo, So he said that might be from climate change. A lot of factors can factor into that, or the kalo just not happy, so, or it's trying to, like climate change is trying to acclimate to where it's at again,
It was like shocked,
based off of what the weather's doing, it's trying to revert back to try and strengthen itself to
it'd be like taking one Hawaiian and putting him in Alaska or something.
His skin will come like that. You know what I mean?
Well,
like people,
Darwin was onto something when he went to the Galapagos, because he looked at plants, he looked at birds, and just based on their area, their natural selection, you had the finches that had developed different types of beaks. Right? Same principle. It was based on nature. There wasn't a man coming in.
Adaptation,
doing that.
They'll adapt, so you get a lot of those going on. So
it's a natural. I think the term is genetic drift. So it's a natural course. Like if you just let a river go, however it finds its way naturally, like that's kind of how the DNA figures itself out based on its environment. It gets comfortable, it adapts. And that's how you get like some finches with sharp, short beaks and some with long, pointy beaks. It's because they kind of stayed in their zone and they weren't negatively affected to disrupt the bloodline.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Nature's natural selection.
It is. Yeah. And then the resilient ones, the strong ones, and the adaptable ones, they continue to pass on their genes to the next generation.
100%.
And so kalo is like us, where we are like kalo.
Well, that's why the Kanaka, they get one tight connection to this plant. That's why it's very important that we're still growing these varieties and teaching the history behind them, because like I was telling you, the Hawaiian race, was believed to have come from this plant itself. Because if it's one thing, it is help, especially for young farmers. Like luckily for me, I get all these uncles around me that's been doing them for generations, and I get to gain that what we call ike kupuna, which is knowledge that is you won't find in books. It's passed on through generations of doing something. So I get that, and a lot of stuff that I've learned is through makahana kaike, where you learn as you do. So that's kind of my learning curves and whatnot, and how I came to know what I know today, which is not even compared to what I could know in 10 years of doing this, because you learn something every day about, whether it's with farming, it's mental, it's physical, whatever it is, so much to learn.
learning from mistakes and from
Yeah.
problems
100%.
all the time.
100%. But I'll get some kalo for you guys. If you guys, but we gotta pull them. I don't know if you wanna get in or if you like get in, Alex.
I brought my Tobbies.
Okay.
He got
right on.
some water shoes too.
Yeah.
We have to take a picture for the Christmas card.
Oh yeah, my mom wanted a photo.
But this is
Okay.
like
We can get a photo of us
let's go,
pulling the kalo.
Let's go get some. Let's go by that first rodeo there where I started pulling already. It's a little more nicer and good shade. This is the variety I was telling you about. Kapa'aloa. This is the one that does the best. You notice it's still super tall. We're at about 12 months, close to 12 months. But all the E Ulu sticking out the ground already. And on my first test pool, from what I see, they're ready to go. So I just started pulling. I had the woman only here. I put all that. They were ready to go. They started to rock already, actually. So I just kept going. We got a lot of kalo to eat, a lot of kalo to share. So I've been steadily pulling every week. Last week I pulled kalo for Malama Kauai. Donated to them for their kupuna distribution. Is part of the work that I'm trying to do is sharing with the community.
So how do you know when it's ready?
So there's a couple of things. You can go by months. You know, remember the dates you planted, and typically kalo mature and they're ready at about between 9 to 12 months based on variety. So this variety here, from what I've learned, is this can actually stay on the ground for a long time in the lo'i. Roughly, I think the longest I heard was like 14 months.
14 months.
14 months. So yeah, without palahu, without rotting, you know. Typically for me, when I look at kalo and when it's ready, is the first thing I'll look at is if the kalo's sticking out the ground. Yeah.
Oh, you can see, you actually see it.
Yeah. When it's sticking out the ground. So in the life cycle of kalo, it'll get super tall. Yeah, in the veg state, it'll get really tall, and then it'll start to shrink down, and then you'll start to think, oh, is it dying? But no, what it's doing is it's focusing all its energy to the corum, the E Ulu we call the meat, and it's growing that. So if you think this is tall, this kalo is way more taller than this guy. Shit you not. Yeah, and then it shrunk down, and then the kalo started to stick out the ground. So that's the first thing I noticed. It shrunk down, and then I look, kalo sticking out the ground. So I did a test pool. I think the first one I pulled, I weighted it was like 3 or 4 pounds. So we're getting some nice sized kalo, some decent sized kalo. And this lo'i I didn't really fertilize too much. I think in the beginning I threw a little bit of phosphorus, just to kind of get that root system going. But these lo'is weren't planted for like 10 years. So
10 years.
10 years. It's sat for 10 years, so you don't really have to fertilize.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just till this up, make sure all the organic matter breaks down. You know, you flood it, and then, you know, when the bubbles start rising from the lepo, and you know, you've heard the volcano. So yeah, we started volcano here, went down this way, and this variety actually did the best. This and the Lihua Mo'oli I had here, which probably could have grew better because of the shade. So now it's out there, it'll grow a lot better. But yeah, this is Kapa'aloa. Shoot, I guess if you like know the the story behind the name of kapa'aloa, why we call them kapa'aloa, because Hawaiians name their varieties for a reason, yeah. So this is kapa'aloa. When it was discovered, it was planted, it was grown, and from what I learned and I've heard, and I might be wrong, so, but how in a kui competition, and what that is they were pound the kalo, yeah, and they were short on kalo. So this farmer brought this variety, and it took so long to pound because it was so hard. That's where it got its name, because pa'a means solid, yeah. Pa'a means solid or hard, you know. So, and loa means long or long time, you know, or a lot.
Kui pa'aloa.
Yeah. So it's kapa'aloa. So the things stay hard long time, basically. You know, it's hard for kui. It takes a long time to pound it because it's so hard. Kapa'aloa. But I love this variety. It's kind of similar to lihua, where you get that the dark colored poi, and when it poha, when it rises, sours, it turns pink. Really. Yeah. So there's a lot to learn about this variety, because there's only a handful of varieties that turn red when it sours. Those are usually the best varieties, and it's super sweet. You can eat this like kalo pa'a. You just steam them, cut them up, and it's gonna just like that.
Little bit of salt.
Little bit of salt if you like, you know, particularly.
Little oil.
You know, you can make. I know a lot of people they like to make kalo poke.
Ooh, yeah.
That's what I like to do when I eat kalo pa'a sometimes. You know, when we're drinking beers, talking story. It's a good pupu, you know, throw some limu kohu inside and some pa'akai. Perfect, little bit sesame oil. Top it off. Yeah. But yeah, if you like, we can get inside. We can put some kalo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Up to you.
I brought my knife.
Yeah. I get extra knife too if you guys need. You just put whatever you like to take home, however much you like.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah. So if you get tabis, you can get your tabis now. And then I'll give a demonstration on particularly how for huki kalo we call harvest is huki, yeah. So I'll show you how I huki kalo. There's many different ways, but there's a way that I like to do it. And,
Okay, shoots.
yeah, right
Let's
on.
do it.
3-4 weeks, so the weeks I've been going back, so I'm gonna keep the water high. You'll be alright. He's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, go slow. Take your time. Try to keep a wide stance. That tends to help from falling down. Yeah, keep a wide stance. Walk like a cowboy, as I like to say.
Old age does not help.
Okay, so you go huki kalo. Typically, when you even the way you harvest is set up from when how you kano you kalo, yeah. So typically I like for plant them not too deep, just enough to where the suction holds the stem in the water. And the reason why I like to do that is most of the kalo is in the water. Yeah, so when it's time for huki, I can just kick the thing right over, boom, and we ready. But we planted this kind of little bit on the deeper side. So you come in, you break the roots like this. Typically you heel, you break the roots, get it on the plant. So you can do this with your feet. Oh, I know a lot of people they like to use like all like that. But I like to do it this way, you know. Either way is fine. But yeah, you break the roots, you notice the plants start to move around a little bit. Make sure you're cooking good. I like to take the ball on my feet like this. Boom, and then I'll kick them over. Boom, just like that. And then I'll start with all this kicking outside. Try not to grab too high, because this variety I noticed is soft, the stem.
Yeah, so don't snap.
Yeah, so it might snap. So when you reach down and grab, try and see if you can get a grip on the E or the kalo. So I go like this and I pull them right up like that. Yeah, and you start to wash them off. Or what they call the roots. Rip off all the roots. No mind, just leave them in the water. Clean it up later. So I start with all the outside. You typically.
That's how you expand your inventory.
Yeah, this is the keiki right here. This is what you regrow. And there's a stipulation with that. Because I hear a lot of kupunas they tell, not kupuna, but yeah, kupuna and a lot of old time farmers they'll tell that they don't even regrow the makua. they only regrow the huli from the keiki, but
Because they're stronger.
yeah, and they grow better, or they get better potential.
Yeah.
Yeah, and typically you retire the old man or the old lady, you retire them. But I don't know, I like to repent them all. I mean, it's just my I don't like to waste that.
Yeah.
Plus I try to expand still yet, so the more huli I get, the better. So we get all these out. Put them a cool last. So you got a decent size color right there. You notice. So remember when I was telling you about it'll grow super tall and big, and then it'll shrink down, and you notice, and a lot of farmers call this hips. Yeah. You can kind of see the kalo's life cycle, kind of what it's been through. Yeah, you see how it's wider on the bottom, and it's skinny up here. That's where it shrunk down. Yeah, and with this variety, I noticed I get a lot of like deformed looking EO, but this variety is because it gives a lot of flowers, bro. It's this variety right now. When I first started growing them, it was all going off with flowers, and all I would smell all day working down there is flowers. So that's one of the things that I noticed about this variety.
Yeah, so energy is going towards
so
making the flower.
If you look at these bumps right there, I noticed this is where all the flowers came out from the EO. See? Flower, right there, another flower. So that's another thing I'm learning about. I don't know if there's a lot of breeding going on when that happens, or if it's just part of its traits, or
It's natural life cycle.
yeah, it's
like a
natural
tree,
life cycle.
the rings.
Yeah. But this is a good size one. Real honest part is what we call ulika, super like gummy, and that's something that you kind of want in your poi. Like that thing's, in my opinion, anyways. I like when the poi stick to the top of my mouth. It kind of, for me, that is what verifies the grade. But you know, yeah, I love them all though. I love them all. But yeah, this is one of my favorites as far as poi goes. I mean, overall, like all around, because poi is ono. Kalopa'a just as is really ono. The leaves are good too, bro. But you don't like picky leaves when you're growing for this. But he goes stanti come all loli the colors. But yeah, pretty simple, yeah. So guys, I go ahead, give them a try. So try and identify the family. Yeah, you can see the spacing. I kind of got them kind of close, but this is kind of where you break them at in between. Yeah. Boom. You put them a cool, and then you work your way around them.
You planted them. You use string.
I might use string, keep one straight there.
Nice and straight. Okay. Okay.
So
proper technique.
Yeah. So typically with the huli, how it is right now is perfect. I usually like to leave 3 leaves on it like this. Typically the huli is not this big when you make it into huli. But for some reason the thing never like shrink down any more than this. So, but here you go. It is what it is. So we get 3 stems like this. I like to cut off the leaf first. You see the leaf right here. This is where the new leaf is gonna pop out. Some people like to stay above it. Some people like doesn't really matter to them. They just cut it real short. What I like to do is I like for cut a portion of it off like that. And what it'll do is when you plant the huli and the leaves start to pop out, the leaf can emerge a lot easier. So I notice sometimes it doesn't open up when you plant the huli. And when it starts to grow that first leaf, it kind of struggles and it starts to wilt like this. And then sometimes what it'll do is it'll drown. You know, anyways, that's what I've noticed. So whenever I cut my huli like this and I leave a little opening for it to come out, it's a lot easier for it to get started.
Yeah, and it's like a caterpillar effect. Yeah. It's kind of like a worm.
Exactly. So
crawl out, but it's stuck in the front.
Yeah, that's what I've learned just from experience. So that's what I try to do. And then after I get the leaves off, usually you scrape them back like this. And you look for the kuhina, yeah. And then what I like to do is I like to aim like right below it like this. And we'll come down about halfway. And then we'll break it up like boom. And then what that does is it creates like a slant like this, right?
Oh, you like that? For
Yeah.
The root to come out.
Well, some people say that it helps with you can make the kalo grow a certain way, a certain shape. But for me is and I learned this from Brother Tyson next to me, is when you got that slant, when you stick it in a lepo, it helps it with the suction. It stays right there, doesn't fall over, doesn't come out. It helps with the suction of the huli, so it doesn't come out. So sometimes some people, they plant and then the next day you look, oh, they're all floating out of huli. If you make your huli like this, the cap, and you plant them, it creates a suction so it doesn't come out.
Important for lo'i style.
Yeah, important for lo'i style.
Mala, like
Mala not too
makes
bad.
sense.
Yeah.
Oh, common sense. Huh?
Yeah,
Think
so
about it.
I've always learned this. It's just because this is how everybody would do them, but I never know why. And this is that is the reason why. And
Physics, huh? Suction.
Yeah, it's not until I experienced it myself. So
Smart.
yeah, and that's what you call huli, right now. It's what you replant and keep your crops going.
The makua.
So these type of what you're learning is generationally passed down.
Yeah, so this
It's not
this
from a textbook.
yeah, this is what I learned from Brother Tyson, who had learned from his father, who had learned from probably his father and his uncles and whatnot. So this is what I learned from them.
So those are the things that need to be passed down
Yeah, for
for
learn.
generations. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, this stuff you can also. I saw kind of talking about this. I seen a couple other farmers talking about this when they cut huli. But yeah, this is how I do them. There's no right or wrong way to plant huli, I would say. The best way is just get them in the fucking dirt. Get them in the mud. As long as you get them in the mud and the thing grow, it's the main thing. So this is just my own technique that I've learned from other farmers. And some of it like from learning on my own, kind of what I experienced. But yeah, so this is the hulis that we replant. And that's what we're gonna do right now. Yeah.
Okay.
This is called elepayo. See the leaf?
All the leaves like that.
Yeah.
Variegated.
Variegated.
Yeah.
Just like the wahia pele, but white. It's named after the bird. Yeah, the native bird elepayo. With the white spots on them.
It's
But,
pretty. It's
yeah.
like a birthmark.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's two varieties of elepayo. Elepayo ha'kea and elepayo ha'uli'uli. So the ha'uli'uli is the dark stem. This one is ha'kea, so it's lighter the stem. I noticed this one doesn't do as well in the lo'i as the uli'uli. Which if you look it up on Kupuna Kalo, they'll tell you what does better as well. But I got a bunch of these from a friend, and I just grew them. They're just stuck them inside. We'll see what happens. I'll give it a couple life cycles and see what happens.
So we know that farming is physically demanding. It is emotionally demanding sometimes, and draining and mentally draining, especially when you're trying to balance all these other things going on in your life just to survive, and take care of your family. So like so many farmers like you get your 9 to 5, your regular day job, and then you farm on top of that. And it's super easy to get burned out. It's super easy to get discouraged, right? You have one hard season or one year where your harvest just not as good, or you get some problems along the way. So what I've been asking some farmers in these interviews is what's something that helps you kind of get through the week and helps you, keep you optimistic and hopeful and keeps fueling your passion so that you can keep marching forward and not getting discouraged or give up. Like, what can you share as a piece of advice to kind of like support and encourage another farmer who might be struggling?
I guess for me is like what I said in the intro, is we try and keep the main thing, so you gotta try and look in yourself and see what the bigger picture. Why are you farming? Why do you want to farm? Why do you want to grow your own food? And you gotta keep the answer to that the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime you feel like giving up, you gotta go back to that.
Your purpose.
Yeah. So for me anyways, is my family. And it's easy for any family man to be doing all this stuff for his family. So whatever it is, wherever you are in life, think of what is important to you and why, and you always keep that why in your mind whenever you feel like giving up. And that's what had got me through all this. I mean, look at this, it's plenty of work, bro. It's choke work. So what keep me working hard is thinking of my kids, you know, knowing that this is for them. They get to live, they get to grow up doing this stuff. And I will know that I plant the seed, and no matter where they are in life when they get older, there's always going to be a part of them. And when things get hard, especially with the way the world's going, they'll have this to fall back on if they don't want to pursue this stuff. So that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that will keep you going if you feel like giving up. So yeah, that's.
Yeah, you gotta reach deep.
Yeah, you gotta
deeper
reach
than just money or lifestyle. You gotta have a deeper why. Yeah.
You gotta have the deeper why. Yeah, especially because this is physically demanding, but it's also mentally demanding as well. So you gotta keep them both strong. You know, you gotta what we like to say is ho'omau. You gotta persevere. So, and also you gotta be patient. You know, ho'omanawanui, make time long. You gotta realize that it's not all gonna come right away. You know, it's gonna get hard before it gets easy.
Yeah.
So just know that when you're going through the hardest part of it, you know in your mind that it's going to get easier from there, because it's inevitable. It's going to get easier as long as you stay on the right track and you keep the main thing.
So. Build a solid foundation, right? And that's the security. That's the sustainability.
Yeah.
That's that's the independence. That's where the sovereignty comes from. Is being secure, being solid, and having the fallback being the food.
Yeah, the food.
And caretaking.
Yeah.
The aina.
Because if you cannot afford the food in the stores, just know that you can grow them yourself, man. You know.
Well, we should be growing them ourselves.
Yeah, we should be 100%.
For ourselves and our community. So that being said, your farm, in order for you to thrive here, and in order for you to grow and for your vision to grow, what do you see in your future for this farm, for this project? And I know you're talking about having it be more of an educational thing, more of like a community bank, a bank of varieties and cultivars of kalo, and especially lo'i kalo, for other people to perpetuate and for other people to grow food as well. What do you need right now? What could help you get to the next level? What's that one thing that would be a game changer for you, for this vision to truly manifest and blow up into something really big for everybody?
Well, in the beginning part we talked about. I know you and we talked about what are the challenges that I face as a kalo farmer, and is finding the time. So for me to pay my bills. Because I don't sell anything here, I don't profit from anything here. I work a 9 to 5, you know. Actually, it's a 7 to 5:30 job, which takes a lot of my time, you know. So having that help when I do have the time really helps me get ahead, you know. So I know we talked about plant some, pull some, and so basically what that is you come here. If you need food, or if you just like get into the lo'i, you get your hands dirty, you come down here, you plant some with me, and you get to pull some and take home whatever you like. You know, you use that sweat equity basically. You know, instead of money, because I don't sell this, but it's not free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gotta sweat for them, you gotta work for them, and it comes from a moral standpoint where if you want something, you gotta work hard for them, you know.
Yeah.
And so I don't always have extra kalo, but for the most part I will. And when I do, it'd be good to share them, you know. That's part of the reason why I wanted to do this, is because I like share them. I like share the food. I like make sure everybody get to eat.
Share the huli.
Yeah. I like make sure that this staple food, this healthy starch, can reach local tables for eat, because if it wasn't for this plant right now, none of us would be here. You know, this wouldn't be Hawaii, you know.
Yeah.
So, you can hit me up on my Instagram. hit me up, see where I'm at. You can, for me right now, I'm taking 1 or 2 people a week. You can come down, you can plant kalo, and you can put kalo, and you can take home food. You can take luau, you can take the i'o if you like, you can take huli. So long you sweat with me, it's all good with me.
That's the new hashtag. Hashtag plant some, pool some, right there.
Hashtag plant some, pool
Plant some, pool some. So we're gonna grow our own food. I think the other thing too is even if you're not here on the west side of Kauai, wherever you are in the islands, support your local farmer. Go volunteer, go check out the lo'i, go check out the fish pond, whatever, but just give some of your time at the end of the week, help plant some more food and keep it growing to the next level. Otherwise, we're never gonna reach food security. We're never gonna reach the sustainability that everyone just talks about. You gotta plant. Stop talking, start planting. That's the main thing. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, to touch up on that, visiting your local lo'i. I mean, it doesn't have to be every day, it doesn't have to be every week, but if you can donate some free time just for come and see what farmers do when they farming, is a lot of appreciation for me, because some people think farmers is just farmers. We stuck food in the ground and then we eat them. It's not how it works, We gotta become more than just one farmer. So,
and we could always use other talents too on the farm. You don't gotta be farming, like just anything, like even creating video, right? Content creation, just getting the word out about who's farming where and how to get some local produce and support. Yeah, so go volunteer at your local farm.
Support local.
Yeah, support local. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Shoots.
We want to thank our guests for their generosity and mana'o. We also want to thank all our ag producers throughout the islands, and especially those we have heard on the podcast for discussing ways they address the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of Hawaii ag production. Each story, each voice contributes to a broader understanding of what it takes to survive and thrive as we feed our communities. Wherever you may find yourself within our island agriculture economies, if you would like to share your story in our podcast, please contact us. Thank you for listening to the Seeds of Wellbeing, Voices from the Field podcast featuring their perspectives of ag producers throughout the Hawaii Islands. If you have found it helpful, please follow, like, and share this episode with others. And if you have any ideas about how we can make it better, please let us know in the comments or use the link on our website. Mahalo for tuning in. The intention of these podcast series is to create a safe space for respectful and inclusive dialogue with people from across a broad and diverse spectrum involved in growing and making accessible the food we share together. A diversity of voices, perspectives, and experiences can serve to deepen mutual understanding, to spark creative problem solving, and provide insight into the complexities of our agricultural system. If you, our listeners, have experiences with Hawaii agriculture ecosystem, from indigenous methods, permaculture, smallholder farmers, to large, including multinational agricultural industrial companies, and everywhere in between, and you would like to share your story, please contact us. We welcome your voices and perspectives.